The exclusion. The day the alien ships appeared in Earth's skies marked the end of one era and the beginning of another. Massive vessels, each the size of small cities, hovered above Tokyo, New York, London, and every major population center. The message they broadcasted was clear. The Galactic Council extends its greeting to Earth. Ambassador Sarah Chen stood at the helm of humanity's diplomatic team. A seasoned diplomat with 20 years of experience in international relations, she had been chosen from thousands of candidates to represent Earth. Her team included Dr. Marcus Rivera, a brilliant xenobiologist, Professor Elena Vasquez, Earth's leading physicist, and Captain James Nakamura, a military strategist with an uncanny ability to understand alien psychology. The journey to the Council's central hub took 3 Earth days. The human delegation marveled at the impossibility of it all, traveling across light years as easily as crossing an ocean. Inside the massive space station, they encountered beings that defied imagination. Some resembled Earth's octopi, but walked on crystalline legs. Others appeared as sentient clouds of gas contained within force fields. The diversity was staggering. "Welcome, representatives of Earth," announced High Arbiter Exiled, a being whose body seemed to be composed of living metal. The Galactic Council consists of 123 advanced civilizations. We have observed your planet's development with great interest. Ambassador Chen stepped forward, her voice steady despite the weight of the moment. We are honored by this invitation. Humanity hopes to learn from and contribute to the galactic community. The presentation began with humanity's greatest achievements. Dr. Rivera showcased human art, literature, and music. Professor Vasquez demonstrated human scientific progress. Captain Nakamura presented Earth's philosophy of cooperation and growth. They spoke of humanity's journey from caves to cities, from war to peace, from ignorance to enlightenment. For 3 standard days, the human delegation answered questions from council members. The atmosphere grew increasingly tense as the questioning continued. The council seemed particularly concerned with humanity's history of conflict, rapid technological advancement, and emotional decision-making. On the 4th day, High Arbiter Exiled called for silence. "We have reached our decision," the metallic being announced. "Humanity shows potential, but also presents significant risks to galactic stability." Ambassador Chen felt her heart sink as Exiled continued. "Your species exhibits volatile emotional responses, unpredictable behavior patterns, and an alarming rate of technological advancement without corresponding ethical development. Therefore, the Galactic Council decrees that humanity shall be quarantined within their solar system until such time as they demonstrate suitable maturity." The shock rippled through the human delegation. "How long will this quarantine last?" Chen asked, struggling to maintain diplomatic composure. "The minimum period is 500 of your years," Exiled replied. "After which, we will reevaluate. Containment fields will be established beyond your outer planets. Any attempt to breach them will be met with immediate intervention." The return journey to Earth was somber. Ambassador Chen prepared her report, knowing it would change human history forever. The news of the quarantine spread across the globe, met with anger, despair, and ultimately, determination. Within weeks, the United Nations convened an emergency session. For the first time in history, all nations voted unanimously on a resolution. The Earth Unity Pact. Old rivalries dissolved as humanity faced its greatest challenge. President Maria Santos of the newly formed United Earth Government addressed the world. "They think they can cage us like animals. They believe we are too dangerous to join their community. They are wrong. Humanity has always risen to meet its challenges. This will be no different." The quarantine fields activated a month later, invisible barriers that turned back any probe attempting to leave the solar system. The Council left monitoring stations at the edge of human space, confident in their containment. But they had miscalculated. They had judged humanity by its past, not its potential. They had seen the violence and missed the resilience, the creativity, the indomitable spirit that had carried humans from the savannah to the stars. In underground facilities across Earth, the greatest minds began working on a single goal: freedom. The United Earth Science Initiative brought together physicists, engineers, mathematicians, and dreamers. They pored over every scrap of data collected during the brief contact with the Council. Dr. Aisha Patel, a quantum physicist from Mumbai, made the first breakthrough. The containment field operates on principles we've never encountered, she explained to the initiative's leadership. But I've found inconsistencies in its structure. There are gaps in their understanding of space-time. General Zhang Wei, head of Earth's new Unified Space Command, saw the implications immediately. You're saying they don't know everything about the universe? Exactly, Dr. Patel replied. They've mastered certain aspects of physics, but they've overlooked others. It's like they built a wall, but forgot about the possibility of tunnels. The discovery energized the global effort. Resources poured into research and development. Nations that had once competed now collaborated. The quarantine, meant to contain humanity, had instead united it as never before. 5 years into the quarantine, humanity's secret facilities buzzed with activity. The first prototype engines based on Dr. Patel's theories were being tested. They called it the quantum veil drive, a technology that would allow ships to slip between the layers of reality the Council's barriers couldn't detect. Ambassador Chen, now Secretary General of the United Earth Government, watched the first successful test with tears in her eyes. They wanted to keep us caged, she said to her old team. Instead, they'd given us the greatest gift, a common purpose. The Galactic Council's monitoring stations reported no unusual activity from the quarantine system. The humans appeared to have accepted their fate, focusing on developing their own solar system. The Council members congratulated themselves on their wisdom. They couldn't have been more wrong. In the shadows of asteroids and the depths of Earth's oceans, humanity was building. Not just ships, but a future. Not just technology, but a new civilization. The Council had judged them by their worst moments, but humanity would show them their best. As the first decade of quarantine ended, humanity stood ready. The prison the Galactic Council had built was about to become the launching pad for something they could never have imagined. A human empire built not on conquest, but on the unbreakable will to be free. The Great Engineering Project. The second decade of the quarantine saw humanity transform itself completely. The United Earth Science Initiative had grown into the most ambitious project in human history. Deep beneath the Sahara Desert, in caverns carved by fusion drills, the first shadow fleet was taking shape. Chief Engineer Yuki Tanaka oversaw the construction. Her team had merged alien principles observed during first contact with entirely new theories developed by human scientists. The result was technology that even the Galactic Council might not understand. The beauty of the veil drive, Tanaka explained to her team, is that it doesn't fight the containment field. It simply operates in dimensions the Council never thought to block. The flagship of the Shadow Fleet, the UES Pioneer, was a masterpiece of human engineering. Unlike the massive, obvious vessels of the Galactic Council, the Pioneer was sleek and adaptive. Its hull incorporated metamaterials that could bend light and other forms of radiation, making it nearly invisible to conventional sensors. Dr. Hassan Amari, the lead physicist on the Veil Drive project, had pushed beyond Dr. Patel's initial theories. The Council thinks in terms of barriers and walls, he said during a briefing. But the universe is more like an ocean. You don't need to break through a wall if you can swim underneath it. The first test of the Veil Drive took place exactly 15 years after the quarantine began. Captain Elena Rodriguez, humanity's most skilled test pilot, volunteered for the mission. Her small craft, equipped with the prototype drive, approached the containment field near Neptune. Pioneer 1 to control, Rodriguez reported. Approaching barrier coordinates. Initiating veil sequence. On Earth, billions held their breath. The moment had been kept secret from the general population, but rumors had spread. Something big was happening. Veil drive activated. Rodriguez continued, entering phase transition. Now, the monitoring stations of the Galactic Council detected nothing unusual. Their sensors showed empty space where Rodriguez's craft had been moments before. But she was there, existing in a state between dimensions, passing through the containment field like a ghost through a wall. "Control, this is Pioneer 1. Rodriguez's voice crackled with static. "I'm through." "Repeat, I am beyond the barrier." The control room erupted in celebration. Secretary General Chen allowed herself a small smile. "Begin Phase 2, she ordered. Over the next 5 years, humanity quietly built and tested more ships. The Shadow Fleet grew to include explorer vessels, colony ships, and defensive craft. Each incorporated improvements on the Veil drive technology. The Council's monitoring stations continued reporting no activity. The breakthrough in establishing colonies came from an unexpected source. Dr. Maya Gupta, a terraforming specialist, discovered that certain barren planets in nearby systems had been overlooked by the Council. These worlds, deemed worthless by galactic standards, held exactly what humanity needed. The Council evaluates planets based on their existing ecosystems, Gupta explained. But we don't need perfect worlds. We need potential. The first human colony ship, New Hope, launched 20 years after the quarantine began. It carried 10,000 volunteers, along with genetic banks containing Earth's biodiversity. The ship passed through the containment field undetected and set course for a system the Council had marked as unsuitable for development. Captain Michael Okafor commanded New Hope. As they approached their destination, he addressed the colonists. "We carry more than just humans on this ship. We carry the dream of freedom, the spirit of exploration that defines our species." The planet they named Haven was harsh by galactic standards. Thin atmosphere, limited water, extreme temperature variations. To the Galactic Council, it was worthless. To humans, it was perfect. Within months, the colonists had established sealed habitats. Within years, they had begun terraforming. The metamaterials developed for the Shadow Fleet proved invaluable for creating structures that could withstand Haven's environment. As Haven grew, more colony ships followed. Each targeted systems the Council had ignored. Humanity was building an interstellar civilization in the spaces between the established galactic order. 25 years after the quarantine, humanity had established 12 colonies. The Shadow Fleet numbered over 100 vessels. Most importantly, human scientists had continued to advance their understanding of the universe. Dr. Sarah Kim, a third-generation physicist working on Haven, made a discovery that would change everything. "The Veil technology doesn't just let us hide," she reported to the United Earth government. "It lets us access energy sources the Council doesn't even know exist." The implications were staggering. Humanity wasn't just escaping its prison. It was developing capabilities beyond those of its jailers. The Galactic Council remained oblivious. Their monitoring stations reported a quiet solar system, a species apparently resigned to its confinement. They had no idea that human ships regularly passed through their barriers, that human colonies were spreading across worthless worlds, that human science was advancing in directions they had never considered. Ambassador Chen, now elderly but still sharp, called a meeting of the United Earth leadership. "It's time to consider our next steps," she said. "We've proven we can survive outside the quarantine. We've shown we can build something new. The question is, what kind of civilization do we want to be?" The debate that followed would shape humanity's future. Some argued for remaining hidden, continuing to build in secret. Others advocated for revealing themselves, challenging the Council directly. A third group proposed something entirely different. "We don't need their approval," argued Admiral Konstantin Volkov. "We don't need to fight them either. We simply need to become something they never expected, a power that operates outside their system." The decision was made. Humanity would continue to expand, but not as the Council expected. They would build an empire based on principles the Council couldn't understand. Adaptation, innovation, and the relentless pursuit of freedom. As the third decade of quarantine approached, the Galactic Council prepared for their first scheduled review of humanity's progress. They expected to find a chastened species, perhaps ready to accept limited integration into galactic society. They were about to discover how badly they had misjudged humanity. Human empire rises. 30 years after the quarantine began, the Galactic Council's review committee arrived at the edge of Earth's solar system. High Inspector Vortax led the delegation, confident in what they would find. It contained species that had learned its place. The monitoring stations reported normal activity. Earth appeared to have focused on developing its own system, exactly as the Council had intended. Vortax prepared to deliver the standard assessment that would extend the quarantine for another century. Then the impossible happened. A fleet of ships appeared around the Council's vessels, emerging from nowhere like phantoms. These weren't the crude craft the Council had expected from a quarantined species. These were elegant, powerful, and utilized technology the Council had never seen. "This is Admiral Sarah Jong of the United Human Empire," a voice announced across all channels. "You are now in human space. Please state your intentions." Vortax sputtered in confusion. "This is impossible. You are quarantined. How did you?" "With respect, High Inspector," Admiral Jong interrupted, "you quarantined our birth system. You never quarantined our potential." The revelation of humanity's expansion sent shockwaves through the Galactic Council. Emergency sessions were called. The impossible had happened. A quarantined species had not only escaped, but had built an interstellar civilization under their very noses. High Arbiter Exiled demanded answers. "How many systems have you contaminated with your presence?" Ambassador Chen, now over 90 but still serving as humanity's chief diplomat, smiled from the view screen. "We prefer the term developed. And the current count is 47 systems, with another dozen under development." The Council chambers erupted in chaos. Member species demanded immediate military action. Others called for negotiations. The fundamental order of the galaxy had been challenged. But humanity had prepared for this moment. The Shadow Fleet, now numbering over 1,000 vessels, demonstrated capabilities that gave even the most militant Council members pause. The Veil Drive technology allowed human ships to appear and disappear at will. Energy weapons based on Dr. Kim's discoveries could pierce standard galactic shields. More importantly, humanity had developed something the Council hadn't anticipated: allies. Several younger species, themselves chafing under Council restrictions, had secretly established relations with human colonies. The Proxeri, a silicon-based life form, had been particularly eager to trade with humans who didn't judge them by Council standards. "You don't understand what you've done," Exiled warned. "The quarantine was for the protection of the galaxy." "No," Chen replied. "The quarantine was because you feared what you didn't understand. You saw our passion and called it instability. You saw our creativity and called it chaos. You saw our determination and called it dangerous." The standoff continued for weeks. The Council threatened war, but their military assessments were sobering. Human technology had evolved in unexpected directions. Their ships were faster, their weapons were unpredictable, and their strategic thinking was unlike anything in the Council's experience. Finally, a compromise was proposed by the Eldari, one of the Council's oldest members. "Perhaps," their representative suggested, "we should consider that our initial assessment was incomplete." The Treaty of New Geneva was signed 3 months later. It recognized the United Human Empire as a sovereign entity, separate from but coexisting with the Galactic Council. Humanity would have no seat on the Council, but neither would they be subject to its restrictions. In return, humanity agreed to certain limitations on expansion and promised not to interfere with Council species. It was a practical arrangement that acknowledged the new reality of the galaxy. The years that followed saw the human empire continue to grow, but in its own unique way. Human colonies specialized in rehabilitating worthless worlds, turning them into thriving ecosystems. Human traders became known for dealing fairly with species the Council overlooked. Human scientists shared discoveries that benefited all, regardless of political affiliations. The Galactic Council watched with a mixture of admiration and unease as humanity carved out its niche in the cosmos. They had tried to cage humanity, and instead had created something entirely new, a civilization that operated outside their traditional framework. A century after first contact, the galaxy had changed profoundly. The Galactic Council still maintained order among its member species, but now there was another power among the stars. The United Human Empire had become a haven for independent thinkers, innovators, and those who didn't fit within the Council's rigid structure. Young species no longer saw Council membership as their only path to the stars. They had another option: the human way of adaptation, innovation, and self-determination. In her final address before retiring, Ambassador Chen reflected on humanity's journey. "They tried to define us by our worst moments," she said, "but we chose to define ourselves by our highest aspirations. They built us a cage, and we used it as a chrysalis. We emerged not as the monsters they feared, but as something they never expected. A species that could find freedom in the spaces they never thought to look." The human empire continued to grow, not through conquest, but through creativity. Each new world transformed, each new alliance formed, each new discovery made prove the same point. Humanity's greatest strength wasn't its technology or its determination, but its ability to see possibilities where others saw only limitations. The Galactic Council had banished humanity to teach them humility. Instead, humanity had taught the galaxy that there was more than one way to reach the stars. In trying to contain human potential, they had only unleashed it upon the cosmos. And in the vast expanse of space, where Council ships patrolled their ordered domains, human vessels danced between dimensions, forever free, forever exploring, forever pushing the boundaries of what was possible. The galaxy would never be the same.